Welcome back, everyone. We're here to break down Game 1 a little bit. I mean, definitely result-wise, a one-sided game in favor for Origen. But it started off with a bang. Let's bring up a replay of that early jungle fight we had on TSM's side and see how it all went wrong, really, more or less, for TSM. Monty, if you want to kick us off as we bring up the screen here for that replay. It was when they were on that red buff camp.
Yeah, and we do have to talk a little bit about this setup for this here. As we can see, both junglers starting on the bottom side of the jungle. But remember, the big setup for this is that Mythy came in with Braum at level 1, and they managed to chunk Bjergsen out with the Braum, Cassiopeia, and Rumble. So it was an early gank, forced the potion from Cassiopeia, and it caused the lane to push towards Cassiopeia. So if you're going to contest this red buff, you can see Niels in the top side already pushed up as well. You can't do this when Origen has control over the mid lane and the top lane because they can simply walk into the jungle faster. So if we get moving with this replay right now, we can actually see how this fight unfolds. Part of it is that we are going to see a flash from, or a W from Hanser that is going to connect onto the red buff eventually instead. Right there, there's the stun. Doesn't actually hit anybody. Now, if they had gotten Mythy, maybe they could have finished him off, but even so, it's still going to be a very bad call because we see Tristana coming in. There's nobody in the top lane to help out from TSM, and then Cassiopeia has the angle. Bjergsen has to walk all the way back through the Raptor brush to get there, and it's just not going to be there in time. So this is a very basic error in terms of shot calling from TSM, and it cost them a huge amount of this game.
And a lot of it just comes from it's like an early game decision-making thing. That decision on how TSM should have played that should have been decided the moment they finished Grom, because then you can see it's a 2v1, and what they needed to do is they needed to fast push the lane because they can't go into the top side jungle at that point because they're just going to have bad numbers. Like the Tristana's up there, the Jinx is not up there, so you're going to be pretty much playing a 3v4. So to prevent that, they would just have to fast push bot turret and then try to open up the lanes as much as they could because Rumble doesn't really have an escape. Can't really get away that well, so you can actually snowball the Renekton Rumble matchup.
Yeah, and you would normally do that, right? Like that's the normal thing, and you especially do it when your Orianna in mid lane has just totally lost control from that early gank. I mean, that was a really bad lane swap decision from TSM.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like in some ways you can kind of call it a rookie mistake where they just set themselves up for failure by putting all those pieces together. And not to call them all out on all parts of it, but like you said, communication, etc. The plans just never were there.
You just see the play, right? In the short frame, you see the play where you can Q flash, you have to change stuff from the Renekton, and then in your head it plays out, and then you get one kill. But what you lose very often is when you tunnel vision so hard is the big picture right now. You have to keep in mind you're playing the map, you're playing for objectives. And what I did like on Origen side, though, once they got that advantage, they actually showed something we haven't really seen that much in this tournament. CLG did it a little bit, but they were aggressively pushing their advantage. I think they contested the first 4 or 5 buffs, if not every single buff on TSM side. They didn't get them all, but it's pressure. They're constantly on your side of the map, and even if you win a fight on your side of the map, it's so hard to translate that into an objective because you have to walk all the way across the river, and by the time you get there, people are defending. So Origen playing super aggressive and actually low punish type of style, and I really like that they actually playing so far forward.
Well, that's also, I mean, when we talked about Rumble can be a potent force in the mid game even when behind. You give him that double kill early, and all of a sudden he's got a few items to work with, and those invades become possible because your mid game is so strong. And Origen really executed that very confidently. I really like that they knew what their power spike was, and they just kept putting on the pressure at the appropriate times. Not only that, but Soaz's teleports were super good. Especially the one he TP'd from the top lane brush into the bottom tri brush because they thought there was a play on the top side. So Bjergsen had moved into the top lane, and it turned into a bottom lane dive instantly. Really good shot calling.
And a lot of that gets set up by the jungler, too, is you could see that there was 2 wards from the TP2. He had a ward on the blue, and he had a ward right behind the turret as well. So that's not just Soaz doing that. That's a full team effort.
Amazing and Mythy were praised over in Europe as the best jungle support combo. Perhaps not individually in their role, but as a combo, they definitely excelled any other combination in Europe. And I just like Soaz because he gets creative. Like, remember that one play where he was hiding in the top lane brush, and then the entire team passed over?
That was great.
And that tilts you. If you, you're sieging a tower and you're like, why is my screen flashing red? And you scroll up, or you just get, okay, Rumble's in the brush. Yeah, no, we checked it. Yeah, okay, this game's over. Go next.
Yeah, I mean, Origen really played that well. Of course, Hanser also got really just targeted and pressured. Just didn't have an opportunity to ever try to make a play after that jungle fight broke through.
Well, I mean, he had to build Cowl first because Rumble got a double kill. He was thrown to the wolves in that game,
Yes.
really.
And Origen made sure they took advantage of all of that. Like you said, I mean, they made sure every time they got an advantage, they pushed through. And, that's probably why a lot of you guys are saying they're the favorite of this tournament. They're coming in with the basis they had at Worlds. So far, looking really good in Game 1. Ladies and gentlemen, Game 2 will be coming up after a short break. But there's a couple things you can do during that break. Don't forget, you can buy a lot of select products up to 75% off at esl.gg/Amazon IEM. That can also help increase the prize pool here at the Intel Extreme Masters. And alongside that, you can also see how well you know the players or how well you think you know the players in terms of how they're going to perform if you go over to Alpha Draft and get your own fantasy team. We do have the players with their fantasy points so far. Double Lift still reigning pretty well, but you would expect, I mean, we only had 2 games yesterday. Nothing too surprising here. Imp getting a lot of points despite his team eventually losing in a 2-0.
See, I told you to pick Double Lift on the Alpha Draft pre-show.
You did.
I was right.
You did. Monty always right. I mean, nothing too surprising there either. All old news, ladies and gentlemen. We'll return right after the break with Game 2 between Origen and TSM.